Millennials are job hopping in their 20s, quite genuinely like no prior generation. The average 25-year-old has had 6 employers. The television show 60 Minutes produced a second segment on the millennials, kind of in the late 2000s, I believe. And one millennial interviewed on that segment told Morley Safer, "It's no big deal for kids our age to have had 4 to 6 jobs in our first 2 years out of school." And that's making it very, very difficult on a lot of employers. And it helps to explain what you're about to see. I presented a training program in Orlando or Atlanta to about 500 management level people who work in hospitals around the nation. 200 of those 500 were given remote control devices in which I could ask them a multiple choice question. They could register their answer. It would be immediately tabulated and shown on the screen. And here was one question I asked them. Individually, what is your opinion of the other generations with whom you work? In other words, they couldn't vote what they thought of their own generation. When I asked baby boomers, Gen Xers, and millennials what their opinion was of the silent generation in the workplace, 42% said it was a positive opinion, 25% negative, and the rest didn't have a strong opinion either way. When we asked the other generations what they thought about the baby boomers in the workplace, 67% positive, 18% negative. When we asked the other generations how they felt about Gen X in the workplace, 37% positive, 32% negative. And when we ask Xers, boomers, and silents their opinion of the young millennials, 34% positive, 40% negative. Although the Great Recession has pounded the millennials, they remain optimistic and idealistic. They have an excellent career spirit. One of my clients is one of the nation's larger retail store chains. You'd recognize them in an instant. They asked me to manage a research study in their workplace to essentially get their management team, the hundreds of their management level people, into the heads of the millennial generation as they come pouring out of their classroom years into adulthood. As part of that research study, I had to interview all of the senior executives in this corporation, and many of them at their headquarters in New York. I'm interviewing a woman in her 50s who is at the very top of this corporation's human resources department. I set down the tape recorder, turned it on, and my first question to her is, now that you've been hiring the millennials for a few years, what's your impression of them? And she laughed hysterically. And here's what she said. For the prior 20 years, we brought Generation X into our workplace at our company. Generation X, all you had to do was say, your job is to do A, B, C. They left and they did it. Now come the millennials. Big dreamers. They are so eager, we have learned, she said, to pick the brains of top management that they completely ignore the chain of command. She said, and I'm interviewing you, she said, we're on the 13th floor of our corporation's headquarters. To get on this floor, you have to be able to type in a secret code on a pad right next to the door. It is supposed to be impregnable. The day doesn't go by, now that the millennials are entering adulthood, when I will be typing at my desk or reading, and all of a sudden, I'll kind of feel this presence on the other side of my desk. And I look up, and here is a millennial new hire. Big grin on her face, wide-eyed. She has just come up with the idea that is going to make our corporation a zillion more dollars, and she has been working for us for 15 minutes. She said, I have two fantasies. One of them is I lunge across the desk and strangle them to death. And she laughed. And she said, but then I look in their eyes and I see this incredible spirit. The millennials are going to be great, but not until after they've driven us goofy.